What's going on, guys? My name is the Afk Obby, and it is finally time to update one of my most viewed videos on the channel, the Ultimate Scalar Money Making Guide. This video is going to have a few more methods as well as updated GP per hour, XP per hour, and updated recommendations if any. Last but certainly not least, 10 months ago we had 280 subscribers, and only 3% of the individuals that view my videos subscribe to the channel. We now have over 2,500 subscribers and double the percentage that subscribe when viewing our videos. That is an absolutely beautiful thing, and I appreciate all of you. Let's bang out these moneymakers so you can afford these expensive bonds. First up, we have Runecraft. We all have a love-hate relationship with Runecraft, but that is only if you go absolutely try hard banging out lavas. We aren't doing that today. What we are going to do is go over to the Ourania altar. Starting at level 1 Runecraft, head northwest of the Tree Gnome village and head underground. Here you will see a bank, but the bank is an NPC named Eniola. If I'm butchering that, sorry Eniola if you're watching this. To access their bank, you'll need to exchange 20 of any kind of rune. Keep that in mind. So don't bank all your runes. GP per hour is dependent on your level, and so is the XP per hour. I say XP per hour could be around 15k starting out and end up somewhere around 65k per hour. And that 65k is on the high end, like I'm thinking like level 99. GP starts anywhere around 8k per hour, moves up to potentially 200k per hour. And those results are based on the distribution chart given on the Osrs wiki page. Only recommendations for this method is main rolls being 327 and 480, maybe some high agility. Guardians of the Rift is a pretty fun minigame in regards to Runecraft. This minigame requires 27 Runecraft, and that requirement is easily obtained by completing the required quest, Temple of the Eye. Basically, you mine some Guardian remains, turn those into Guardian essences, then turn the essences into catalytic or elemental Guardian stones at altars, granting XP and runes. Turn the runes into the Great Guardian for more XP and elemental or catalytic energy, depending on which stones you made. Hopefully, you can go back and play that on like 0.5 speed if you want to obtain all of that knowledge. You need 100 energy for either, and the 100 energy equals 1 point for whichever reaches 100. 2 points is 200 energy, etc, etc. There is a weird rule where you have a chance of points rounding up. So say you have 173 energy, you'd have a 73% chance of it rounding up to 2 points. XP per hour is 20k plus when doing Guardians of the Rift and 100k plus GP per hour. The only recommendation I have for Guardians of the Rift is watching a guide. I have a perfect guide for beginner skillers that I will link down below. Feel free to watch a different content creator if you'd like. I'm not even biased at this point. Just watch a good guide. Crafting blood runes is the greatest method of rune crafting for a skiller, hands down. 0% chance you could convince me otherwise. You can begin crafting these at 77 runecraft, and it is highly recommended to have 73 agility paired with your 77 runecraft because of the shortcut available on location. Look forward to 38k XP per hour and 500k GP per hour. That's right, 500,000 GP per hour. To top it off, this method is nice and AFK. Yours truly loves this method with all of my heart. There's one and only one method for the skill that typically sucks your GP dry, and that method is solo Wintertodt for construction. In order to obtain construction XP from fixing the braziers at the wintertime minigame, you have to buy your house first. So head to an estate agent, usually in Varrock, and 1,000 coins will buy you your first house. Fixing a broken brazier results in 4 times the player's construction level rewarded in experience. It is recommended to begin this process at around 20 to 30 construction, as the higher your construction level, the better your XP per hour. I'd say if starting at around level 30 construction, you could very well achieve 2k plus XP per hour. The loot, however, gives up to 250k per hour at higher firemaking levels, woodcutting levels, herblore levels, mining, fishing, and crafting levels. So all of your loot depends on those respective levels. So you'll want all of those levels being higher as well. Firemaking, woodcutting, herblore, mining, fishing, crafting. Get them up. Then get to Wintertodt. But stay 10 HP, right? If you know, you know. Agility has 2 methods that are great for money making. The first method is doing rooftop courses around the world of Gielinor. Once you reach agility level 10, you can begin running the Drainer Village rooftop course. This will result in about 10k experience per hour and 140k GP per hour. At level 90, you can begin the Ardougne rooftop course, obtaining 62k XP per hour and a little over 180k GP per hour. When doing these courses, you'll see an item called a Mark of Grace on the ground. Pick them up and purchase Graceful with them, as the game is non-playable without the full Graceful outfit. They help slow down the depletion of your running, so you're really going to want to use those, but after purchasing the full outfit for a total of 260 Marks of Grace, use those instead for immortalized packs. Each pack costs 10 Marks of Grace and do sell for about 150k on the Grand Exchange, so you'll just sell those crystals at the GE. The second method to obtaining GP per hour when training agility is the Agility Pyramid. The Agility Pyramid can start to be trained at level 30, but the fail rate at Agility level 30 is pretty high. At level 50 agility, expect to fail 3 to 6 obstacles on average before reaching the top, and it does get lesser at 58 and 60 than the only failable obstacles or the jump gaps at agility level 70. It is recommended to begin this grind at 75 agility because it is then impossible to fail any obstacle. Upon completion, you receive a pyramid top, of which is handed into Simon Templeton in exchange for 10,000 coins. A maximum number of 26 pyramid tops can be collected per hour, which means 26,000 coins per hour is your max. Max XP per hour is 44,700, and that starts at level 88. This is because the maximum experience rates scale with the player's agility level, capping at level 88, 42,100 to 75, all the way to 44,700 at 88 to 99. When training Herblore, you can never go wrong with cleaning herbs. After completing Druidic Ritual, you can then begin cleaning the herbs. There's a page on the old school RuneScape wiki that shows you the XP per herb cleaned as well as profits for each herb cleaned. You can clean about 5,000 herbs per hour at max efficiency, but that is absolutely wild to only achieve the minimum of 12.5k XP per hour cleaning Guams. Cleaning Tourstoles, however, may be worth the broken wrists. At level 75 Herblore, you can clean these bad lads for 75,000 XP per hour and a whopping 400k GP per hour. Of course, it is at max efficiency, okay? I'm talking cramps in the wristicles, broken wrists, your thumb never being the same again, your index finger needing splints if they want to see another straight day. Recommendations for this method are, of course, some starter GP to buy the dirty herbs and to use mobile for ease of cleaning the herbs. Herbs, what do you say? Super easy on mobile to spam tap instead of clicking. Whew, I need some water. How you doing? You guys doing all right? Oh, I just spilled it. This next method requires 31 Herblore alongside 81 Hunter. If I'm being honest, both the XP and GP are a little lackluster, but always nice to include some alternative methods. This method is, of course, hunting Herbiboar. Every time you track and harvest a Herbiboar, you obtain both Herblore and Hunter experience. We will talk about the hunting XP later, but doing this method for Herblore XP, you can expect about 3k per hour. That's right, only 3k XP per hour, but it does train 2 skills simultaneously, and it does give you many herbs when harvesting the Herbiboar. The herbs can then be turned into potions for more XP, of course, so the XP per hour is higher than mentioned if you decide to make the potions when all is said and done, instead of selling them. Thieving is one of those skills where it is almost a gathering skill like woodcutting and mining. It may even be considered so. I should probably look it up, but I'm not, and you literally just make money. So I guess it is a gathering skill, right? Because you just make money by taking money. Gathering? Hello? Pyramid Plunder, however, is a little more than the traditional click an NPC and getting moolah. Pyramid Plunder is a thieving minigame where you navigate through different rooms inside of a pyramid. There are 8 rooms total, and each room requires a higher thieving level to enter and loot. Pyramid Plunder is the only place where you can obtain the Pharaoh's Scepter. Scepter? That drop alone is upwards of 3.4 mil at the moment, and that would be a massive haul getting that bad boy while training thieving. 21 thieving is required to enter, and 71 plus is highly recommended. 21 unlocks room 1, 31 room 2, 41 room 3, and so on up until room 8 unlocking in level 91 thieving. The closer to 21 thieving that you start, the lower your XP rates. XP tops out at about 250k at level 91 and higher. GP per hour is flexible. You'll see about 100k per hour, but you always have the chance to hit that Pharaoh Scepter, drop and raise that GP per hour tremendously. I'm going to say Scepter because you guys always get on my butt about saying Scimitar, so I know it's Scimitar, Scepter, Skepter, Scimitar. Let's move on. Moving on to the 3 methods that are traditional point and click on the NPC for free items and GP. These 3 methods have 2 recommendations standard, and those are dodgy necklaces as well as the full rogue's outfit. First up, we have Master Farmers. XP per hour starts at 27k, can get all the way up to 125k with higher thieving levels. GP per hour is great because with the recommended 71 farming and a seed box, you'll start at around 75k an hour, but when you get up to those higher thieving levels, 500k per hour GP, that is money making, baby. Pickpocketing Ardougne Knights is the most common method when looking into training your thieving. This is probably because starting from when you unlock the method at level 55, you obtain about 14 million GP. 14 million when you hit 99. Of course, full rogue's outfit is recommended for double the loot and some food as well as some dodgy necklaces. Another recommendation for this method is a big one because this recommendation results in this method being much easier. Join a thieving friends chat. 2 great chats to join are Thieving Host and Splash Worlds. Basically, you join either of those friends chat, then select the sort by world option, hop to a world that is populated by quite a few friend chat members, then teleport to the southeast bank in East Ardougne. That's right, Ardougne. We got that one. And that is all. Make sure the rogue's equipment is equipped and start spam clicking. You can expect around 50k per hour starting out, raising all the way to 250k XP per hour at those higher thieving levels. GP per hour starts at about 60k per hour and tops out at about 300k per hour. Last method for these spam clickers are pickpocketing paladins. This method obviously requires a higher thieving level, and that level is 70 thieving. Nothing special about the method, just making sure that you have the full rogue's outfit equipped and some dodgy necklaces. Food will obviously never hurt. Pickpocket the paladins walking around Ardougne Marketplace. Doesn't get much more simple than that. No French chat needed for this method, but you will be getting around 90k XP per hour, and that goes all the way up to about 150k XP per hour at the higher thieving levels. GP per hour sits at about 250k starting out, and that tops out at about 500k GP per hour. Crafting has a few methods for money making, and they are all decent. The first we'll go over is one as old as time, crafting jewelry. Starting at level 5, you can begin crafting gold rings for a small profit. Over time, you can craft higher level items and reach higher experience rates as well as profits. There is a jewelry crafting calculator that I will link down below if interested in this method, and it will tell you the GP you may profit based on the item crafted. 21k XP per hour to start out with, and again, that number rises depending on what item you're crafting. GP per hour starts at 80k and goes up and up. These two numbers are only a base rate, so please do feel free to check out that calculator that I have linked in the description below. At crafting level 8, you can begin making Clockworks. You also need a crafting table 2 in your player-owned house, which means a 25 construction level is needed to upgrade your crafting table 1. One steel bar on the crafting table creates 1 Clockwork. XP per hour is only 18k, but GP per hour is 460k with the recommended 50 construction level, giving you access to the demon butler inside of your house. Another method as old as time is turning flax into bowstrings. Starting at level 10, you can bring in 21k XP per hour and a very decent 133k GP per hour. Not bad at all for a level 10 moneymaker. Only recommendation for using this method is the second floor of the Lumbridge Castle, or I think if you're in the UK it might be the first floor. But this is because the bank is on the floor directly above the spinning wheel used when turning flax into bowstring. So you turn the flax into bowstring, you run upstairs, you bank, you go back downstairs, you run upstairs, you bank. Tedious? Yes. Decent GP per hour for a level 10 moneymaker? Yes. The last method we are going to go over for the crafting skill is making drift nets. Starting at only level 26, you make drift nets by using jute fibers on a loom. Expect to see about 60k XP per hour and upwards of 370k GP per hour. Only recommendations for making drift nets is to use the loom on Fossil Island and have at least 29 construction to build the loom. Fletching is about as easy as a skill can get when focusing on GP and XP per hour efficiency. Starting with one of two that go hand in hand, you can fletch logs into unstrung longbows. Starting at level 55, you can begin fletching maple logs into unfinished maple longbows. From there, you can price check logs and unfinished longbows to see what your best route is. Sometimes you may want to get less XP per hour, more GP per hour, or vice versa, and up to about 112k XP per hour at the higher logs being used. GP per hour is just as tight knit as the XP per hour. 100k per hour for lower tier logs and around 120k GP per hour for the higher tier logs, turning those into unfinished longbows. No recommendations for this method. Speaking of no recommendations, on the flip side of the last method, we have putting bowstrings on unfinished longbows. This method is less AFK, but is better XP per hour starting at level 55, just as the last method suggested. This time around, you'll see about 135k XP per hour on the low level methods and upwards of 215k XP per hour on the higher tier logs. GP per hour will start at about 195k and reach up to numbers such as 260k. Big difference, huh? Fletching bolt tips is our last moneymaker for the fletching skill. Starting at level 63 fletching, you can begin to fletch a ruby gem for ruby bolt tips. You'll get about 7k XP per hour starting at that respective level and earn 230k profit per hour. Is that worth it to you? 7k XP per hour but potentially 230k GP per hour? It's worth it to someone broke like me, I can tell you that much. Birdhouses are something in this game that you should do as soon as you get the chance. They can be done once every 55 minutes or so, and 4 of them can be found within the inner teleportation system on Fossil Island. Minimum level requirement is 500 and 5 crafting. XP per hour starts at 1120 with regular logs being used and moves up to 4.8k per hour with the best logs used. This XP stacks so quick, and before you know it, your hunter level will be right there where you want it. The GP per hour is dependent on what seeds you get after dismantling your birdhouses. Loot could be anywhere between 0 coins from a spirit seed to over 132k from getting a dragon fruit tree seed. Recommendation for this method is again to start as soon as you possibly can. Kebbit teeth just may be one you haven't heard of before. Starting at level 51, you can obtain 20k XP per hour from killing Kebbits in the Relica Hunter area. These Kebbits are captured with the Deadfall traps. 350k GP per hour is a great number to expect when training this method, and the only piece of recommendation for this method is at 30 construction, just because you want to set your house portal to the Relica location. Chinchompas are a great way to train your hunter and is highly sought after because of the XP and GP per hour. Starting at 53, you can begin hunting chins and get 44k XP per hour. At the regular Chinchompas, you will also bring in about 250k GP per hour. At 63 Hunter, you can begin red chins for even more XP and GP. Then at level 73 Hunter, the black Chinchompa grind has started. Enter the wilderness just southeast of the lava maze and get your 94k XP per hour as well as your 750k GP per hour. Just be careful. You're in the wilderness, so don't get caught. Herbiboar is back for the hunter skill, and with 80 hunter as well as 31 Herblore, you can begin the process of trucking through Fossil Island and holding your breath each time it slips away and you don't get the pet. That's personal. 115k XP per hour at around level 80 is expected, and you can watch that rise all the way up to 162k XP per hour during those higher levels in the 90s. GP per hour is still sitting strong at around 350k per hour, and the recommendations stay the same too: the high agility level, full graceful, herb sack, and teleports to and from Fossil Island. So for me, I use house tabs and I have a mounted dig site teleport inside of my house. There are plenty of mining skills that bring in decent profit, as it is a gathering skill, but damn, this skill is the worst in the game for me. I don't know what it is about mining, but wow. This first method is shooting stars. This mining method is one of my preferred methods, as it is pretty AFK and starts at only level 10. Level 10 allows you to mine a tier 1 star, level 20 unlocks the tier 2 stars, and so on and so forth, all the way up to level 90 and tier 9 being able to be mined. Shooting stars brings in an okay XP per hour at between 15k to 30k per hour depending on your level and tiers being mined. GP per hour is also decent, being about 100k per hour. Recommendations while mining shooting stars is usually the best pickaxe possible, and of course a friends chat like Star Miners. These friends chats will call out locations of stars and what tiers they fall as. Mining iron ore is an early game method, but you cannot go wrong with the level 15 requirement and a gathering skill to give decent profits. After you get to the mining guild from grinding 60 mining, your XP rates will hit 59k per hour and your profit will start to reach about 260k per hour. The only recommendations for this method is of course a 60 mining to access the mining guild and a Varrock Armor 1. This is because it gives you a 10% chance when warned of mining 2 ores at once up to gold, and you get experience for both of the ores mined. Next up in the mining skill is the Motherlode mine. Motherlode is probably the single most popular method when it comes to training mining, and for a good reason, right? You can obtain many great mining items like the coal bag, the mining outfit known as the prospector outfit, bag of gems. There's so much stuff. Players flock here at only mining level 30, and they obtain around 13k XP per hour when starting on the bottom floor. After level 72 mining and using 100 gold nuggets to unlock the top floor, players can expect upwards of 54k per hour. Respectively, GP per hour starts at around 35k per hour on the low end and will tap out at around 275k per hour. Those are the big dog levels. I highly recommend the level 72 mining and top floor access like we discussed earlier. Probably the best money making method when it comes to mining is the Blast Mine. Blast Mine requires level 43 mining and 100% low against favor. It grants both mining and firemaking experience, but it doesn't have a firemaking requirement. XP per hour reaches around 75k per hour and the GP per hour hits up to around 400k per hour. It's pretty click intensive and needs tons of thought process, but worth it when you're getting 400k GP per hour if you ask me. Recommendations for the Blast Mine is only 75 plus mining for best profits. Another method of mining that I don't find too bad is mining Amethyst. Requiring mining level 92, head to the mining guild to mine these suckers. These are fairly AFK when being mined, and XP per hour lacks a bit as it's only 20k on average towards level 99. GP per hour is nice though. Ready? 400k GP per hour. How worth it is that for you when you're only banking in 21k XP per hour? It's worth it for me with the AFK aspect. Only recommendations for this method are the expert mining gloves and the dragon pickaxe. The Giants Foundry is a smithing minigame. You can play this minigame after completion of the quest Sleeping Giants, of which requires 15 smithing. After the quest is complete, you will have 25 smithing, and that is why I have that level requirement listed. XP per hour here at the Foundry at max efficiency can hit about 200k, while GP per hour hits around 75k. I won't go into too many details on how the minigame works, but you essentially get a task from the giant named Kovac. This task is creating a giant weapon, and you do the whole process within the Giant's Foundry. When jobs are completed, you get a reward called Foundry Reputation. Use this reputation to buy rewards from the reward shop like Kovac's Grog, the Colossal Blade, the Double Mold, the Smithing Outfit, and even more than that. The only recommendation for this method is using the plugin on RuneLite and watching a guide. I'll have that guide linked down below. When training smithing, a pretty popular go-to is Cannonballs, of course. Starting at level 35 and after completing the Dwarf Cannon quest, you can smith Cannonballs. XP per hour lacks a bit with it only being about 13k, but GP per hour is 107k. Very nice for the small amount of effort it takes to get to that point. Takes about 90 minutes total to get the double ammo mold, but worth it because it doubles your GP and XP rates. That means 26k XP per hour and 214k GP per hour. The Edgeville Furnace is once again recommended with this method, as well as the double ammo mold, because you can't beat double the GP and XP from only 90 minutes of minigame. Mithril dart tips are a method I have used quite frequently due to them being AFK. Seem to just fit my schedule perfectly when I wanted to do something like be a parent or do school because I'm a student. Smithing these dart tips require only level 54 and gives you 47k XP per hour and 112k GP per hour. Every inventory takes a little under a minute and a half, and that was perfect for me to be AFK and do all of those things I mentioned before. Varrock West Anvil is highly recommended when doing these, as the anvil and the bank are very close to each other. Also, don't forget to complete Tourist Trap. You can't make these without completing that quest. The last smithing method we will be mentioning is one that I got a lot of pushback on for not mentioning in last year's money making video, the Blast Furnace. The Blast Furnace is a minigame in Keldagrim where you essentially smelt bars in bulk. You can technically start from level 1, not recommended, but you can. XP per hour depends heavily on bars being used, but expect 18k per hour on the lower end and a whopping 370k per hour on those higher tier bars being smelted. GP per hour is amazing, and I can see why I was bullied for leaving it out last go around. 100k per hour when starting with the profitable bars, and listen, get really close. 1.5 million GP on the more profitable bars. What was wrong with me? The recommendations for this method is watching or reading a guide about bars used for profits, ice gloves, and of course a coal bag. I got you guys this time. It's in. Moving on to the fishing skill, we have Tempoross. Tempoross is a fishing minigame that requires 35 fishing, and it isn't as bad as you may think in the XP or loot department. XP when starting out is about 40k per hour, while the GP is about 35k per hour. When you reach the higher levels, however, you can expect about 70k XP per hour as well as 75k GP per hour. The drops at the end of the game when turning in your permits are completely random. Some notable drops that you can receive while playing Tempoross are things like Soaked Pages, the Tome of Water, and even a Dragon Harpoon. The recommendations for doing Tempoross are simply watching a guide, and I will have that guide linked down below. Now that Tempoross is done with, we will be moving on to traditional fishing methods. First on that list is fishing for sharks. Starting at level 76, you are able to head to the fishing guild and begin fishing for these bad boys. Expect only about 17.6k XP per hour when starting and around 70k GP per hour. Recommendations for shark fishing is a 90 plus fishing level, a dragon harpoon, and fishing at the fishing guild. Fishing for anglers requires level 82 fishing and 100% Piscarilius favor. I'll link a guide for that favor down below. It is highly recommended to fish anglers after level 95 fishing, however, and this will result in 18k XP per hour, but a nice little profit of 196k per hour. This method is nice in AFK with a pretty view, and what more can you ask for in a point and click? Recommendations for this method are Rada's Blessing, Spirit Flakes, and the 95 plus fishing previously mentioned. Minnows are special. I feel like some people have not heard of minnows, but minnows are caught at Kylie's Minnows fishing platform at the Fishing Guild. This platform can only be accessed after level 82 fishing, completion of the quest fishing contest, and showing Kylie the full angler's outfit. After reaching the platform, you will be receiving 39k XP per hour and banking in about 160k GP per hour. Minnows can be exchanged for noted raw sharks by trading them to Kylie Minnow for 40 minnows per raw shark. Recommendations for this method are the full angler's outfit, of course, as well as Rada's Blessing. Spirit Flakes may also be beneficial when catching minnows. Catching dark crabs is a method done in the wilderness, so please be careful. Now that the warning is out of the way, level 85 fishing is needed to begin the method. XP per hour will reach about 23k, and your GP per hour will be about 150k. There is a method located in the resource area where you can note the crabs as you catch them. That resource area does cost 7,500 coins to enter each time. You can also find a permanent fire in the area, eliminating the need to make one when cooking crabs if you have the respective cooking level. Noting your crabs using the NPC piles will cost 50 coins per fish, and the only recommendations for this method is Rada's Blessing and to please be careful. It's the wilderness, so even if you log out and you log back in due to a threat, you will have to pay that fee to get in once again. Cooking alongside fletching and woodcutting may very well be the most simple. All of these methods have the same recommendations, and this will go by rather quickly. First up, we have lobsters at cooking level 40. Expect 156k XP per hour and 45.5k GP per hour. Recommended is cooking gauntlets and using the Hosidius range. Monkfish is one and the same. Unlocked to cooking level 62, look to get 195k XP per hour and 123k GP per hour. Same exact recommendations as before. Cooking gauntlets and Hosidius range. Cooking anglers requires level 84, and you'll get about 299k XP per hour while receiving around 292k GP per hour. Only difference is that we recommend a cooking cape when doing this method. We talked about cooking these earlier, and it requires 90 cooking. Dark crabs, baby. 279k XP per hour is to be expected, as well as 296k GP per hour. Same recommendations as before, including the cooking cape. Firemaking, of course, is short and sweet because you burn the logs and ashes plague the ground, right? So it only makes sense to use logs that cost less than ashes, right? Insert maple logs. Level 45 firemaking is needed to attempt this method that I hope you never attempt, but I figured I would throw it in anyway. 80k to 125k XP per hour and 45k GP per hour is expected, and the only recommendation I have for you is not to do this. Please. The typical firemaking money method everyone knows and loves is Wintertodt. Requiring level 50 firemaking, Wintertodt is a dangerous minigame that you can get hurt in. That means death is possible. XP per hour at this minigame is great, with it being between 150k to 200k XP per hour. GP per hour at the higher end is 250k plus. And the minigame is easy. Chop roots, put them in the brazier, and even fletch sometimes. But why fletch? Only recommendation is to watch a guide so you can see beforehand exactly how to run through the minigame. Woodcutting is another fairly simple skill when it comes to obtaining GP. You literally do an action and receive something you can in turn sell for GP. So I'm going to bunch these trees into a group and just call it trees. I felt like a robot. Trees. I'm going to call it trees. Starting at level 15, you can begin cutting oak trees, and this goes all the way up to the higher tier trees. XP per hour starts at 30k with the oaks and 50k GP per hour, ranging all the way up to over 130k per hour cutting trees like magic. Recommendations for this method are the best axe possible and training in the woodcutting guild after reaching woodcutting level 60. Another woodcutting method that brings in decent profits is cutting Silica mushrooms on Fossil Island. As an obby, I do this every time I build a new account. Requiring woodcutting level 65, you are able to hit Fossil Island and begin running a route through the swamp cutting Siliceps. I will link a guide down below to show you the route you have to take, as only one Soli appears at a time and they spawn in order. I know it probably sounds confusing, but I promise it is so easy. XP per hour is 80k plus, and GP per hour is, I'm going to say, about 50k, but after you've completed the Rock Museum display cases for your free 120,000 XP, you can then trade the fossils in for Nummulite and profit so much more. Recommendations for this method is watching the guide that I mentioned. Farming is tricky because you typically buy seeds, wait a long time, then pick your plants or just check a tree. Not much profit involved, but we do have two methods that can bring in a bit of light to your farming darkness. First up is planting herbs. Herbs. Only level 9 farming is required to begin the herb farming grind. Skillers have access to at least 5 herb patches, so I'll link a wiki page down below with the price and profit calculators as well as the locations of the herb patches. I want you to check in on that page and let me know just how much you're profiting. Expect not too much XP per hour. I'm talking like 600 to 11,000 XP per hour depending on what you're planting and harvesting. Plus it's RNG dependent, so your GP per hour is not only RNG dependent but also dependent on what herbs you plant. Same as the XP per hour. It's kind of tough. Recommendations for planting herbs is obviously checking out that wiki page listed in the description. The very last method we have in this video is farming hard contracts, or hard farming contracts. Tomato, tomato. At farming level 85, you can head to the farming guild and get a farming contract from Farmer Jane to plant and harvest something very specific. Like, very specific. After the contract completion, you get a seed pack rewarding you with seeds. Examples of hard contracts to plant and harvest within the guild are white lilies, a yew tree, snapdragons, a magic tree, and so on. I'll link a wiki page down below telling you every farming contract possible. XP per hour depends on the contracts you get, and it's tough because some things take hours or even days to grow. GP per hour is the same, but I did calculate how much you could get per seed pack reward. That amount is between 10k and 65k. The recommendation I have for this method is try to have as many things planted as possible. So do feel free to pre-plant some of these contracts. You don't have to plant the contract after you get it. You could have a yew tree already grown, get the contract, then check on it to contract. And there we have it, almost 50 money makers. If one of these moneymakers seem helpful for you, do feel free to like the video, comment on the video, and even subscribe to the channel. I don't want to keep you guys any longer than I already did, and I truly appreciate you watching. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you guys next time.